Let's talk Buffalo. And yeah, Russ Wilson is probably the MVP right now, but Josh Allen is right there. And it's been against Miami and it's been against the Jets, but 70% completion rate, 729 pass yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. The pass heaviest team in the NFL over expectation is the Buffalo Bills. I mean, we thought Josh Allen was going to have a huge year. I don't know if you could have predicted that they were going to go 4 wide, that they were going to throw at this rate. I mean, it's just been so perfect for Josh Allen. The schedule is obviously going to get tougher when you play Miami and New York. That's like the best setup you can get, but still great signs from the Bills. What did you see out of their game against the Dolphins?
Yeah, well, this early schedule was part of the evaluation on Josh Allen. Through their Week 11 bye, it would be hard to draw it up any easier for them. With that said, I did expect the Rams to not be as good on defense as they have, been through 2 games, and so this is going to be the first real big test for Josh Allen. The game is in Buffalo, and these outside receivers are just so dope. Like John Brown and Stephon Diggs, like it's nasty, man. These guys are really, really difficult to cover. Probably the most underrated number 1 and 2 wide receiver duo in the league. This will be Josh Allen's first big test, and we'll see how he responds. The scheming, the offensive scheming, and the play calling has been magnificent on the part of Brian Daboll.
Let's go to the Minnesota Vikings. Probably one of the biggest disappointments, I would say, in the NFL so far. I mean, they've run fewer than 50 plays, which is insane. I mean, it's insane to run fewer than 50 plays in an NFL game. In their first 2 games, both times they've run fewer than 50 games. I mean, just pathetic. And shout out to Thorne, who was all over the mismatch between Indy's defensive line and Minnesota's offensive line. And that's how it played out. I will say Minnesota does have some good matchups coming up. Tennessee, Houston, Seattle, Atlanta, Detroit a little bit later. So maybe there's some chance, but it's not great right now. We do know that it's concentrated at least. And that, I think, keeps the light on for me, at least in DFS, where, hey, if they have a good game, it's going to be Dalvin, it's going to be Thielen, and we know where it's going to go through. I think there's some value in that. But what do you think about what's going on with Minnesota?
They're just so bad. I was listening to the PFF forecast podcast with Eric Eager and George Charuri, and they were like debating whether to rank in their power rankings have Minnesota at like number 31 ahead of only the Jets. And they were going back and forth. Like one guy thought the Giants were a little worse, and then one guy had the Vikings at 31. But they look at like a freaking 3-win team right now. What do they really have as a strength on their roster? Their secondary is awful. They just lost Anthony Barr for the season at linebacker. Up front, Daniel Hunter is not there, and we don't know when he's going to be back. They lost Everson Griffin. Their defensive line isn't good. We knew their offensive line would be bad entering the year. They traded away Stephon Diggs. They don't really have a number 2 receiver. Their quarterback is a guy that, is about as good as his supporting cast is. And then they've got a good running back. So their roster is built like they have a good running back and nothing else. And we know that running backs generally don't move the needle. It's really, really bad for the Vikings right now.
San Francisco, man, and you can make a case San Francisco has had the worst injury luck this season, maybe Denver, but San Francisco, just keeps piling on. They lose Jimmy G to an ankle sprain. He's in doubt. We know about Nick Mullins. He started plenty of games before. Raheem Mostert was playing so well. He gets an MCL injury. Tevin Coleman has a knee issue. Nick Bosa on the defensive side of the ball add to all their woes. Meanwhile, Jerick McKinnon, old friend Jerick McKinnon, who we remember from the first guy who was like, kind of the bit was he's a spark freak, and everybody busting balls about spark freaks. But, Jerick McKinnon has looked really healthy. And Jeff Wilson, by the way, who caught 8 balls in a game a couple years ago from Nick Mullins, if you remember, he's around too. JaMychal Hasty as well. Let's start with quarterbacking, though. What can you tell people about Nick Mullins? Because we do have a reasonable sample on Nick Mullins starting games in the NFL.
Yeah, played at Southern Miss with old friend Todd Monken. Went undrafted. But landed in San Francisco, and you quickly sort of asserted himself as a superior player to C.J. Beathard, who they had drafted in the 3rd round, and then wound up making starts. And like if you look at his efficiency, Nick Mullins' efficiency, it is not really any worse in his starts. It is not any worse than Jimmy Garoppolo's. And It's like right in the Kirk Cousins range. So it just sort of makes you wonder, like, there's definitely a system QB thing going on here. I don't know. Nick Mullins is going to be, if he gets the start against the Giants, like certainly like a 2-quarterback league play. And, I don't know, maybe a guy that will look at it in DFS. We'll have to see. I mean, the problem is that the supporting cast has disintegrated. I don't think they're going to play George Kittle. I mean, they're pissed about this field thing.
Yeah.
At MetLife, Kyle Shanahan is pissed about this field thing. He thinks that the field was not in great condition and played a role in the 49ers having all these week 2 injuries. And now they're playing at the same field again this week because they're playing the Jets and the Giants back to back.
Yeah.
So my guess is that they're not going to take any risks on this field.
All right, we got to talk about Houston, Evan. Will Fuller, wasn't producing. They had Kiki Kuti in 3 wide sets. What's going on? And then, of course, the photos come in of Will Fuller getting his hamstring stretched out on the sideline. He was in and out. I just can't believe this dude's hamstring is already tight. Well, I shouldn't say I can't believe. I believe that his hamstring is already tight. It's just crazy that he can't solve this issue of like keeping his hamstrings loose. So I don't think it's any kind of serious injury. But I assume he'll be limited at best in practice this week. And it just sucks. Like, hamstring injuries in wide receivers, it just doesn't work well together. Do you have anything to say to Will Fuller Nation right now?
Well, our victory lap was nice while it lasted. And now the naysayers get to take their victory lap. So it's great when we can all be right. Right?
Let me say this. Pittsburgh and Baltimore were going to be 2 spots that I wasn't excited to use Will Fuller anyways. I hope he sits out this week because after that, Will Fuller is going to get Minnesota, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Green Bay, Jacksonville, Cleveland, and later on in the year get Detroit and Cincy also. Like, this offense is going to explode. It's not going to be this week where they have to play Pittsburgh, but I hope Will Fuller sits out this week and everybody jokes about and bashes us about Will Fuller because he's going to come back if he can get healthy with a vengeance for sure. David Johnson quietly 100% of the running back touches, I believe, last week with Duke Johnson out, but Pittsburgh next. But man, it's similar to Melvin Gordon. When you're getting that kind of volume, certainly can't be ignored. Can David Johnson? Let's go to the Las Vegas Raiders, who got a good win last night at home in an island game over the very good New Orleans Saints. I mean, Darren Waller just goes absolutely ham, and that limited what Henry Ruggs could do and what Bryan Edwards could do. And Josh Jacobs got banged up a little bit, but still went over 30 touches once again. Josh Jacobs still has like a pass game role. He's just not playing on like 3rd and 5 or longer, or 4th and 5 or longer. So Josh Jacobs' usage, I think, is maybe a little bit better than we thought before the year. It's still not ideal, especially in full PPR, but at least it's better. What did you see out of the Raiders last night?
Yeah, there was still a lot of Jalen Richard and Devontae Booker, especially late in the game. Yeah, I mean, Darren Waller was, I think, like people really picked him apart. And during redraft season, I tried to keep him pretty high. He has positive touchdown regression coming. Caught like 90 balls last year and only scored 3 touchdowns. And he's like the perfect receiver for Derek Carr because Derek Carr is not a high A-dot passer, and Darren Waller just catches everything. Mm-hmm. So a very, very comfortable target for him. And, it was a great performance. Henry Ruggs wasn't as involved in week 2 as he was in week 1. And now they got New England coming up. It'll be interesting to see if they can go and be competitive against the Patriots in Foxborough.
I just want to get my Bucks shot in here. Derek Carr shredding the Saints defense after Tom Brady looked like total death against the Saints defense, I think should be a warning flag for all the Bucks truthers out there. Okay, just want to get that off my chest.
Well, I mean, the NFL and these teams are in cahoots. Like they were never going to let the Raiders lose their home opener in Vegas, right?
Okay, New England, and man, I was obviously wrong on Cam Newton. He looks absolutely incredible. Like, I mean, Cam Newton not just running, but throwing looks incredible. And also the way they're using him. I mean, New England carries inside the 5-yard line so far this year. Cam Newton has 5 through 2 games. Sony Michel has 1. Nobody else has any. I mean, we were working on rest of season top 150. And is there really that much separation between like Cam, Josh Allen, Russ, Lamar, even Mahomes, like all these guys? Like if Cam's going to run like this, he's going to score like 10, 15 touchdowns rushing. What do you see out of New England in that awesome Sunday night game?
Yeah, it looks like Cam is elevating teammates, which again is exactly what he did that year when they lost Kelvin Benjamin in Carolina. That was back when Kelvin Benjamin was decent. And he just elevated like Ted Ginn and Philly Brown and, guys that are barely or not in the NFL anymore. And I mean, when he's at 100%, he's definitely a teammate elevator. He's like a tier 1 real life and fantasy quarterback. Mm-hmm. And that's what looks like is happening here. And then they get the Raiders next. So I would be very, very excited about Cam Newton. I'm sure that he's going to be a popular DFS play this week.
Yeah, James White missed this game due to the sad death of his father. Expect him back active next week.